Dear Diary, it's 6:47 p.m. on Sunday as I record this message to you, and I don't know really how to feel. In fact, Dwayne Russell, one of our Lords and Saviours, summed it up perfectly when he said, "It's a draw. They don't know how to feel," because I also do not know how to feel. I do not even know what to tell you. All I know is that this highlights package I'm about to play to you pretty much sums up how it all went down. So, listen on.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the finale of what has already been a stirring afternoon. The cream has risen, the wheat has bid farewell to the chaff, and now we approach the championship match with but 2 warriors remaining. It's got a chance. Yes, sir!
Oh, man. Tree falling in the woods, tree falling in the woods, tree falling in...
And the battle is well and truly joined.
Woohoo!
Mercy is for the weak!
If one were to look up courage in the Oxford English Dictionary, one might very well come upon the photo of these 2 gladiators. Soon, one man will emerge triumphant. He will drink naught but champagne, while his opponent tastes bitter defeat in this oft-cruel game.
It's okay, son. You can recover.
Neither man showing his best form. This sort of pressure can unhinge even the steeliest of competitors.
This is pretty tense, isn't it?
Yeah, my knees are shaking. I got butterflies in my stomach. But I guess it's Bill's character.
Who wants to build character?
We decided we're equally good.
We want to call it a draw, man.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have a draw! You will forgive an old bit for crying, but this is the most stirring display of gallantry and sportsmanship.
Put her there, man.
Yeah, all right!
So for those of you who watched the game or listened to it on the radio, however you consumed the most intense 120 minutes of football of this season, you'll agree with me, that is totally how it played out. Every word of what you just heard was exactly what happened, and that's exactly the way it happened. And for those who missed it, you missed it. Anyway, let's hit that bloody theme music now. Hello, listeners, and welcome to Purgatory. Yes, that's the place you go when you're not really dead and you're not really alive. You're just kind of just existing sort of in a nothing place. And that's what it feels like when you draw a football match, especially during the regular season when you don't get to come out for another 10 minutes and try and win it. And joining me to have a bit of a discussion about that exact topic, as always, is my co-host, Al McGovern. Welcome, Al.
The champ is here! The champ is here! The champ is here!
Ash, how are we?
Well, I'm a little bit more up and about now than what I was last night, let me say.
It was a weird feeling, wasn't it?
Yeah, and like our mate, who's almost our Lord and Saviour at times, Dwayne Russell, he summed it up. He really summed it up with what he said right at the very end of the game after the siren. It's a draw. They don't know what to feel about it.
Yep.
And I wrote that exact thing on my Facebook, and I sent it to about 5 or 6 people this morning at work. And it's true. Like I really, at the end of it, I did not know what to feel, and I'd been thinking about it for the whole entire game because it was that close, as you know.
Yep.
It's seesawed, and I guess what put a little bit of a dampener on it as well. And I don't want to harp on our fans because we've got some really amazing fans who support our football club through everything. But we've got some real numpties as well, like every football club does.
It's every club for sure. I've only really started to notice them in the last couple of years once we'd had a period of success. It seems like a couple of people got very used to us, making finals every year, a big top 4 every year for a while. So now that we're kind of down on that regular performance, quoting in quotation marks, they're coming out in full swing, aren't they?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like, there's 3 things that I sort of brought up with a couple of friends last night. One is you've got those exactly the people you just spoke about, the people who you don't hear boo from them when we're winning. As soon as we start losing, they just pop up like those. What's that game where those little hungry hippos where the little heads pop up and you got to hit them with a hammer?
It's literally hungry hippos.
Yeah, it is. Like they just come out of their little holes and they're like, "Oh, we're losing! Crap! Sack everyone! Sack the coach! Bring in the VFL team because all these guys from our academy who are 16 years old are going to win every single game in the AFL." Like, come on, guys! Then you've got the ones who, and look. I will admit there were times when we were really bad. I was one of these overly patriotic people because I just wanted us to be good.
Yep.
But you got the people who refuse to believe that we're not good at times. And look, I love it because that's me. I don't want to believe that things aren't going good. But sometimes you have to face reality and say, well, things aren't going our way. There are things to work on.
Yeah.
Which is what we're here for.
Yeah, look, I understand people being a bit down. Obviously, it's been interesting because obviously, like I said before, we had a period of success the last couple of years, so people got kind of comfortable and they've got used to where we were at. But I don't think it's clear we're not going to win the premiership this year. I wouldn't have thought unless we have a miraculous end to the season.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's as doom and gloom as everyone says. And we just have so many young guys on our list and such good talent. And, everyone's, they've been struggling for the last couple of weeks, but they've been getting better as the season goes along. And the fight and the spirit's been showing more and more per round.
Yeah. And just to add to that, so this is a converse look at that is the third type of supporters that I've come across. So the ones who refuse to admit that we have ever been good. And we know who they are. Everyone knows who they are. And look, you've got to take the good with the bad. Like if you look at there are some bad things that happen, as we've said, and there's a lot of good things that happen. Let's just take a balanced look. Let's not be those guys that are just totally negative about every single thing all the time. And let's not be those guys that go into hiding when we're good because we're only waiting for us to be bad. Let's fight a balance. Yeah, be realistic about what's happening. And so on something you said, and I've completely lost my train of thought, so bear with me. No, I'm gone. No, here it is. One of our patron saints of our show.
Yep.
Jackson Revolt. And this is what he said. Pretty sure he said it during the game. And there's a bit more to it, but this is the part I took out of it that's the most important. And it's regarding both teams that were playing last night. And look, it's a pretty basic, straightforward sentence, but it has impact, in my opinion. And he said, I think both of these sides are playing better footy than 12th and 13th at the moment. And it's true.
Yeah, I think that's true.
Yeah.
And I think we're both playing a lot better than we had because the Crows had a pretty awful start to the season like we did.
Yep.
I mean, the draw's kind of fitting, isn't it? Because we've kind of mirrored each other our starts of the season.
Yeah.
And we're about on the same level at the moment.
And so I've heard Jackson say,
Jackson Rewalt.
Yes, I've heard him say at other times that Essendon still haven't faced their true test. Well, this was prior to them playing the Giants on the weekend.
Yeah.
And mentioning that their percentage is an indicator of that.
Yep.
So they have a pretty low percentage at the moment. Now, us and Adelaide both have percentages of around about or just over 100.
Yep.
Extremely high for middle of the ladder teams, you would have thought.
Yeah, definitely.
So he's onto something. And look, I know you and I had a bit to say about him as a player, and I think he admits that he was a bit of an off at times.
Yeah, I was never the biggest fan of him, and he does have some pretty ordinary takes sometimes, but I actually thought he had some pretty good points during the game, and he said something quite good about our debutant, which we'll probably touch on a bit later as well.
Yeah, that's right.
I think he had something really good to say about him, so that was he's a bit of a mixed bag, but I agreed with him more than I disagreed with him in the recent broadcast.
Yeah, look, I don't mind a lot of what he has to say. Like he brings in a different outlook to a lot of the old boys.
Yep,
he's played the game recently. He's worked in the media recently, leading up to his retirement, and then becoming full time in the media.
Yep,
and I think he's generally pretty balanced. But look, he does get carried away late in games. But who doesn't? But do you want to know something funny, right? So we were talking when we had Jules on the other week about people's heart rates going up during close games. So I was at the gym Saturday morning, riding along 120 RPM on the exercise bike, which is pretty fast. It's like probably 25 kilometres an hour, which for an old bloke like me, it's not too bad.
That's a good effort.
My heart rate was 90 beats per minute.
Wow.
All right. Last night, in the final minute and a half of the game, my heart rate was 83 beats per minute.
Jeez.
Now, I would never call myself a cool cucumber, but bloody hell. That's pretty
very chilled up.
That's pretty, that's like lizard lounging away in the sun, chilled out, mate. That is unbelievable. Yeah. But anyway.
So full transparency to the listeners, I didn't watch the game live. I messaged you a couple of hours before it started and just gave you the heads up because Sunday was Mother's Day, obviously. I took my partner out with my children for the afternoon took it to a lime and it was an orchard, and it was like a picnic with live music and food bands and stuff like that. So it was pretty good. And then I got to watch the game later that night. So I was up till about 11 o'clock finishing the game off.
Actually sounds like a pretty good afternoon and evening out, I must admit.
It was good. We thought we were going to get rained out, but it didn't actually rain at all. So it was perfect evening. It was really good.
So full disclosure from me, I watched the entirety of the game visually, but for the first 7 minutes of the second quarter, I did not have the sound on because and it wasn't because Kelly Underwood was commentating. I didn't mind it last night, to be honest. It was because at quarter time, I rang my mum to say Happy Mother's Day, and we had one of those long mother and son conversations that the sons don't normally have with anyone. But yeah, it was good. We had a good chat, and then she sort of mentioned at one stage, you probably should watch the footy now, and good on you, mum. So, yeah.
Cheers to all the mums out there. You do great work.
So my weird stat leaders, so to speak, for this week are probably going to be missing a couple of numbers because I missed 7 minutes of the game. But it is what it is. I missed Logan Morris kicking a goal from a commentary point of view. So, yeah, anyway, we know where that's going to go.
That's right.
So, yeah, okay, well, to the game anyway. So my first thing that I was pretty flat about, and I wasn't alone in that, is Shadeau Brain as the sub.
Yep, I agree with that completely. And I've mentioned that to a few people I've spoken to since.
And the whole narrative leading up to the game was we don't use debutants as a sub. We get them on the ground.
Yep.
And I had the big build-up, the whole story and everything. and we were all looking like what have we got, 50,000+ members or something, plus all the people that are non-members. So let's just say 80,000 people were looking forward to seeing Shadeau Brain run onto the field for the start of the game, and he didn't.
Yeah. Well, imagine being his parents. Like, you know, they came down to watch him debut, and he sat on the bench for 3/4.
Not to mention his 12 siblings, because they were never mentioned during the game.
Yeah, no, that's definitely not the biggest talking point that gets talked about with him constantly.
Yeah. And I just remember something too. So full disclosure about our last episode, I did have to cut out a big chunk of it where we were talking about some good movies that we've watched or want to watch.
Oh, yeah.
My microphone must have been playing up.
Oh, really?
I am working on fixing that up and taking out all the scratching from my microphone. So
it does get a bit scratchy sometimes, yeah.
Yeah. I think it's just because I've got it the way I've got it connected, it's a USB connector, not a 3.5mm jack. So yeah.
Is your beard scratching the mic or something like that, or?
More, no. I have it a little bit away from, like, it's probably about an inch away from the beard. So
okay.
Yeah.
Oh, well,
yeah, well, that's it. It's all about, I'm sure David King will come up with a stat about how many times my microphone has crackled and how many listeners it's cost us. But
it's all about the learnings, mate.
Yeah, the learnings. we are gonna do a bloody thing on cliches, because you know how many bloody times I heard and absolutely just roll my eyes when they say, "Oh, he should have lowered his eyes."
Yeah.
What does that even mean? You wanted to look at the ground?
I've heard commentators say that for as long as I can remember watching footy, and I've always just kind of shrugged it off, but I've never really thought about it, to be honest.
As supporters of every football team in the land say it as well. Oh, why didn't that guy lower his eyes? Well, I don't know. Do you want him to look at his foot when he's putting the ball on it? Yeah. I want him to be looking straight ahead at the guy he's kicking it to, or at the goals.
Yeah.
Anyway,
another one I love is when they, someone takes a massive specky, and then they'll go, and he grabbed the ball at the highest point, and it's like, well, no, he didn't, because the ball came back down again, and he grabbed it when it came down.
Mike Whiting's big on that one too. I mean, like, half the time they grab it on their way down, as you said, or they grab it as their feet touch the ground. And Jason Dunstall mentioned that last night on. Yeah, I unfortunately watched the bounce for a couple of minutes.
Gosh.
I know. I
didn't realize people did that voluntarily.
I didn't. I just couldn't. Like, I was in a state of shock and couldn't move away from my couch or from their one. It
was part of your trauma healing and processing, was it?
Yeah, and he mentioned, like, they were gushing over some guy who took a mark, and he's like, his feet hit the ground before he actually touched the ball with his hands. And I was like, yeah, when you put it that way. Anyway, but so getting back to the game, so something else I noticed that initially as well, and this was both teams, when they ran out onto the ground and then did their warm-ups, both teams looked really flat, in my opinion.
Okay.
I don't know if you noticed that or not, but
well, I didn't watch it live, so I skipped most of it because I was going to be up late and I had an early morning. So I just watched the quarters, so I skipped the breaks and I skipped the warm up and all that sort of stuff, just so that I could streamline my replay as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
So I didn't watch the warm up, so I didn't catch any of that. That's interesting.
Yeah, look, that's just me, because, like, you normally see a lot of teams, and even our guys sometimes they'll have a bit of a laugh. And blokes are telling jokes, and like Darcy Wilmot's trying to G up the crowd, or the cheer squad or whatever, and Dane Zorko's given that sideways thumbs up that he does to everybody, and there's none of that. None of the Crows boys were smiling. I think Matt Crouch was about the only one that had a grin on his face, and that's probably because he knew he was going to get 100+ fantasy points, as he does every week. But yeah, I don't know. I just felt, but look, watching the game, you wouldn't have known.
Yeah.
Look, I thought it was a bit scratchy and scrappy early on, and both teams are sort of trying to force a style on each other that they're not used to playing.
Yeah, it was clear that they were both teams had been hit by injury, so there was a lot of inexperience on both teams. So
yeah,
there was a lot of guys who had never played with each other, and it was kind of all over the shop. But the effort was there from both teams from the beginning to right through to the end.
100%. And I think both teams are trying a different game style, but then we're sort of making each other play an even different, if that's a word, game style.
We'll add it to the dictionary.
Like they were saying that we had this kick mark game all through the game. I sort of agree, but don't totally agree. Like we were sort of moving it around, in my opinion, a bit sort of shorter and whatever. But like we were sort of working more in groups at times, from what I observed, and I felt that the Crows probably were working more on individual guys doing individual things. In particular, Isaac Rankin, 99% of the time, I feel like he thinks he's the only guy out there.
Yeah. He had a pretty good game, though.
Yeah, look, I yes and no. I think he
got lucky a few times, and that made him look a bit better than he was actually. But he was one of their better performers. But there was a bit of luck, like right place at the right time.
Yeah, he got about 25 and kicked 3 goals, which looks good on paper. But I feel like he a bit like Bontempelli used to be before he sort of got more consistent, drifts in and out of the games.
Yeah.
Sort of looks lost for a lot of periods, but then does these magical things. And you can't deny the fact that when he's on fire, he's magic. He really is exciting. But like they gush over him like he's consistently for 120 minutes doing the most amazing things. And one of the things I picked up on in the commentary about him was they basically, I can't remember who it was. I think it might have been Jordan Lewis or someone. He said, Isaac Rankin's the highest ranked player of the last 2 weeks. Only Nick D is in front of him.
What?
So he's not the highest ranked player of the last 2 weeks. He's the second highest ranked player.
Yeah.
And
it's a weird stat.
They did this last year with Aliir. Like, Aliir's had the most intercept marks in the comp. Only Jack Payne's taken more.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a weird way to say those stats.
Yeah, it is. On Jack Payne too, I thought his sort of battle with Taylor Walker was, even though Walker got 2 goals in the end, it's probably a win for Payne. I feel like
I think it was his season best game.
Yeah, I think that was the Jack Payne we know and love.
Yeah, it was good. One of the notes I wrote down was Payne's back in form.
Yeah, I think he got about 13 intercept possessions or something like that. 12 intercept marks. He got 6 in one quarter at one stage.
Yep.
He got 6 out of 9 intercept possessions for, I think it might have been the third quarter. I mean, look, Taylor Walker, no matter what you think of him as a person or whatever, he's a bloody good footballer. And those 2 goals aside, one of them was a cheapie at the back anyway. But
that's right.
Like Payne, I reckon Payne destroyed him for the majority of the game.
Yeah, I agree with that. I remember thinking, like, distinctly, it was one of the, I didn't write a huge amount of notes down, but one of the notes I did write was, Payne's back in form. Season best game so far.
Yeah, and the physical stuff didn't bother him as much last night either, I didn't feel.
Do you think it's a confidence thing, or do you think he was getting over some kind of injury or something? Or because he was noticeably better this week than he had been previous weeks.
It's kind of funny that you say that, because when I did speak to him after our first VFL game, and we were talking about the shorter preseason being tough on a few guys, he sort of emphasised that he really, he almost brought that up before I was able to, when I was about to.
Yeah.
And he kind of really emphasised that was a big thing at the time. And thinking back now, maybe he had a bit of a couple of issues during preseason that held him back a little bit.
Okay. Yeah, it would make sense.
Yeah, but also I do agree that it does look like it's a confidence thing as well.
Yeah.
And look, just because he's big doesn't mean he's angry.
Yeah, no, he's a bit of a gentle giant, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of really small guys who are really angry and will take hits from guys 10 times their size.
Yeah, there's a few of those on our list.
Yeah, and that, size doesn't mean you're going to be tough. Doesn't mean you're going to be weak. It's just the way it is.
Yep.
But yeah, look, I'm going to probably revisit that a bit later. Oh yeah. So have you got your crosses prepared? Because I'm on ticks this week.
No, I don't, but I can improvise.
Oh, you know how many times I've been like, yeah, I better send a message to let him know he's on crosses this week.
Yeah. All right, so I'm on crosses.
Yeah, life gets in the way sometimes.
It does, man. I've had a hectic weekend / today. So no, it should be right. I'll just I'll let you do ticks first, and I'll do them as I go.
Yeah, we'll get to that. We're not there yet. I mean, what did you think of Berry? I thought his first and last quarters were really, really good.
Yeah, he didn't have a full quarter game, but there was definitely bursts where I went, "Oh, he's having possibly his season best game. I wouldn't say career best, but definitely season best game for him." But he did fall away around the middle of the game. You're right.
Yeah, and look, that's not really. I mean, I don't think anybody had a full 4-quarter game on either team.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe Andrews.
Yeah, maybe, but he also had a couple of goals kicked on him where he made mistakes, and people make mistakes. That's life.
Of course.
In a high-intensity game like that, you're going to make more mistakes or worse mistakes because the pressure is through the roof.
Yeah.
But, yeah, look, and it's funny, like I mentioned it to someone else. I said, Berry's last quarter has been so good. And they're like, oh, yeah, but he turned it over once. In a game like that, everyone's going to turn it over.
Yeah.
Because everybody is invested in getting a result.
Yeah. Like, 1 or 2 turnovers is not the end of the world. But, when you get your 4, 5, 6 plus, that's a bit of a problem.
Yeah. And that's it. So, and speaking of turnovers too, like the amount of turnovers was pretty even. I think midway through the last quarter, they had maybe 2 more than us.
Yep.
And some of our fans were lamenting the fact that we had way more than them. And I just said, look, they've actually had 2 more than us, but the difference between them and us is that we've scored 0 scores from turnover. And at that stage, they'd scored 2 goals 4 or 2 goals 5, something along those lines, which is not a great amount. But when the other team scored 0, it's a huge amount.
Yeah, I thought certain guys, like Neil was definitely down on his regular output. Like there was, like McKenna was probably a bit out of form.
Yeah, look, McKenna, and we know he's my favourite player at the club, but he had a shocker.
Yeah.
He had a game.
Pryor didn't do too well for his first call-up for the year.
Well, see, I had Pryor in the first few minutes. I had him in my notes. Pryor's going okay was what I wrote.
Yeah.
I deleted it once he got subbed off. Because
I think even earlier than then, like he was all right for the first quarter, and then he really disappeared for the second quarter.
Yeah, and like a couple of guys were like that on both teams, or then guys came back into it and whatever. But the turnovers. I mean, I don't think that was too big a deal in general, other than the fact that Adelaide got 2 goals out of it.
I think there was some pretty the turnovers that were there were pretty shocking. There was a couple of really shocking ones.
Yeah,
but it wasn't like we had butterfingers and we couldn't hold on to it. And there was a couple of weeks ago. I remember my favorite player, who's now out injured, Lincoln McCarthy. He had a really shocking turnover. I think it was against. Oh, geez. I can't even remember who it was now. I'm in a mental blank.
Welcome to my world, mate.
Yeah. But he's normally such a good ball user, and like his field kicking is usually elite. But he kicked it straight to an opposition player, and then they rebounded it, and it went straight down the other end for a goal.
Yeah, was that Max Holmes from Geelong?
No? It was. It wasn't Geelong.
Somebody kicked one straight to Max Holmes in that game, and they got a goal out of him from halfback.
It was one of the Oppo's best players, but I can't remember who it was now. Oh, well.
Yeah.
Oh, it was the Giants game. It was Green. He kicked it straight to Green.
Oh, yeah, Tom Green.
Tom Green, yeah.
Yeah.
And Tom Green took it right down the other end and kicked another. Well, he passed it off and it got kicked to a goal.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, that was a shocking one. Yeah, that game was just littered with. That was one of our well, it was our worst game for the year, I believe, the Giants game.
Oh well, yeah. Like not only on the scoreboard, but I mean, we titled our episode our worst game in a long time. So
yeah, it was just a mess all around.
And ironically, that's our most listened to episode of all time.
Yeah, it's almost like some people want the doom and gloom more than they want the good results.
I was hoping it was more our good form on the mic, but you know,
yeah, maybe,
maybe. So little thing I've picked up on Hipwood, and I've mentioned this to people over the years, and he's not the only guy that does this. Jack Darling at the Eagles does this a lot, and Sam Darcy, who's at the Bulldogs now, Luke Darcy's boy, does it a bit too.
Yep.
Is when they're having shots at goal, and Hipwood in particular, because it's relative to us, gets too close to the men on the mark at the point of release.
Yeah.
And I think what happens is he knows he's doing it, and he gets the wobbles up with his ball drop.
Mm.
I don't know if that's something he's been in the system now for 8 or 9 years or whatever. I don't know if that's something that you can just change overnight, but that's just an observation I've made. You've obviously seen it yourself as well.
Yeah, I noticed it with a few players on various teams, including ours, and I always wonder how surely that's something that would get trained out of the game pretty early on.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm not as tall as Eric Hipwood, so whenever I was kicking over the men on the mark, I tried to be as far away from him as possible because
yeah, exactly.
my legs, his legs are probably as long as my whole body. So
well, he could probably step over most of his opponents.
Oh yeah. But I mean, look, I know he copped another bashing last night. I thought the effort was there. Like same with Neil, like the effort was there. They just didn't get the end result.
I think the effort's always there with Hipwood. I've never thought, like, I'm not his biggest fan, but like, I've never thought, gee, he's just not trying, or gee, he's lazy, or anything like that. I've never thought that. But it's not even like a skill. His execution sometimes is just so off the mark. But I don't think he deserves the tongue lashing that he gets from the fans.
Yeah,
he gets it a little bit from the media, but geez, our fans in particular are so brutal with him.
Yeah, and I think, it's some guys are just always going to be the whipping boy. I mean, he's kind of like the Nickelback of the Brisbane Lions, isn't he?
Yeah, that's true.
He does do a lot of good things, but people are going to hate him anyway. Yeah, haters going to hate. Like,
yeah,
I
mean, I've been pretty critical of Jared Berry in the past, but it's not like I don't like Jared Berry, and like it's not like I don't want him on the team or anything like that. It's just that's a guy I've noticed in the past who's, I think is capable of more than what he showed. But at the same time, like, I'm not going to be super brutal about it. Like, I'm not going to, try and crush his spirit or anything like that. Like, some people are just absolutely brutal with Hipwood.
Yeah, I mean, so many personal attacks are made on him, and it's just like, okay, you can talk about his football, no problem, but and look, he does make mistakes. He makes a lot of mistakes. And I think sometimes having really long arms and really long legs, you can get a bit tangled up in yourself, and it happens. But
yeah.
And I think sometimes he's a little too intense for his own liking, and he tries that a little bit too hard, and things do go wrong. But geez, like I've seen him kick goals from outside 60 meters and they've sailed through, and I've seen him run guys down who should be quicker than him, but they clearly weren't, So,
and that's the thing is, like, he cops so much, and he's not gonna. No one thinks that he's having a good year. I don't think he thinks that he's having a good year, but we know what he's capable of.
Yeah,
and he's shown some elite level stuff in the past. Like you said, like he can kick goals. Like him and Danaher's ability to kick, a goal on the run on an angle is just phenomenal. But both of them kind of struggle with set shots. Same with Charlie. Yeah. Charlie struggles with set shots, but he can kick unbelievable goals that no one else, apart from maybe Eddie Betts, but Eddie Betts is out of the competition now, is capable of.
How good was Eddie Betts, though?
Oh, he was unreal.
Probably the most likable footballer that plays for another club or has played for another club in the whole history of my life of watching football.
I can't remember many players from opposition teams that I have been interested to see how they're going week by week and like would actively seek out their highlights and like if I see them, they'd make me smile.
Yeah.
Like I don't feel that way about any of the other players from other teams in the competition at the moment, and I never really have. Like I was, when Dusty was at his peak, I was never really a big fan of him and always thought the media kind of blew him up a little bit more than he deserved, and that's happening now with the D brothers.
Well,
in my opinion,
one in particular.
Well, I think the older one is a little underappreciated, to be honest.
Yeah, he is.
And I think the younger one's blown way out of proportion. But like going back to Eddie Betts, like it's rare that there's a player on another team that I actually genuinely like. Like I'm very neutral with one. Like I don't dislike many opposition players, but I actively liked Eddie Betts.
Yeah, I mean, look, I've been blessed in my lifetime to. I mean, look, I saw Lee Matthews play, but not really. It was like at the end of his career, he was probably close to 40 years old, and he was just going around belting blokes at that stage. So I can't really say, but in my lifetime, like when I was too young to have noticed, he was getting 40 and kicking six, like, week after week. He won the Coleman as a rover, so as a midfielder, basically, and so he would have been amazing. Malcolm Blight, the same. I was too young to. But like I had Gary Ablett Sr., Tony Lockett, two guys I did pay money to go and see them play.
Yeah.
When they weren't even playing against my club. Two amazing footballers, did some amazing things. Obviously some people have their opinions on other parts of their life, but as footballers and Buddy Franklin's another one of those, like,
oh yeah,
when Buddy was on, he was amazing. And Eddie Betts, they're like probably the four guys in my lifetime that I can say nobody did what they could do when they were at their best.
Yeah, and it's a shame with Buddy Franklin. Like I was, when he was getting ready to kick his 1,000th goal, I gathered my kids around and I gathered my partner around, and I was like, "We got to watch this." And she goes, "But the Lions aren't playing. Like, why are we watching this?" I was like, No. You don't understand. This is never going to happen again.
Yeah.
Like, ever.
Not just in our lifetimes, but ever.
We are witnessing football history, and we are witnessing the end of one of the last legends of the game. And this will never happen again. So, like, you want to remember this. And then, obviously, we watched it, and then that woman stood up in front of the camera and blocked the shot, famously. But at least there were several angles, and we did get a pretty good shot in the end. But that was a fantastic evening, and like, I'll remember that forever. And the Lions weren't even playing.
Yeah, that's it. And I guess if for those people who were there at that game as well, like that experience is something that they'll never ever forget.
Oh yeah, running out onto the field,
and also those two Swans players who went for a walk down the road and bought a kebab.
Well, you might as well. I mean, what was it, a 30-minute break between when he kicked it and when the game started again?
Yeah, I think it was only going to be 10 and it went out to about 30. So
yep, and then someone brought like a picnic rug out on the oval, and someone spread a family member's ashes.
Yeah, I was about to say that, and some other guy ran off with the ball, and then a week later he gave it back and got a membership. And yeah, what a moment. Yeah.
See, like those moments are so special and they're so rare.
Yeah. Well. I'm probably going to chuck in, and this guy didn't do it as consistently or as often, but Cyril Rioli when he was on as well. And I'm a little bit biased with my love of anybody from the Rioli family, which we have talked about before.
Sure.
I was in awe of all those guys when I was a kid for my period that I lived in Darwin. Even the kids who were in my class at school who were part of that family, I think I was a little bit jealous of how good they were at everything they did.
Yep.
But oh man, I've just got all this big smile reminiscing about these amazing footballers. And to throw that in, we had some really good guys at our club too. Like in my first sort of couple of years of watching the VFL, Bernie Quinlan, who would be an amazing player in today's football. He was a modern footballer. We had Jason Ackermanis could do things that just defied logic.
Oh yeah, he was so special.
Michael Voss, we had bloody Simon Black, and
the thing about Acker as well is like he would do things that would shock himself.
Yeah, like that goal he kicked against Geelong from the pocket that time. He couldn't believe he got it. The look on his face was amazing.
Genuine disbelief in himself.
Yeah. And I reckon it was the other goal he kicked in that game that won him the goal of the year that year.
Yeah, you're right.
And I think that's the more unbelievable part about it. It's like that wasn't even goal of the year. It was the other one he kicked.
Yeah. He's done it again.
Yeah. Oh, man. But yeah, like, I mean, we obviously don't have someone. Well, I mean, Dane Zorko in 2017 when he was an All-Australian wasn't at that level, but people wanted to watch him. That's barracked for other clubs as well.
Oh, yeah. And he was one of the very few things we had going for us at that time as well.
Yeah.
God, we were so lucky to pick him up.
Oh,
imagine how bleak those years would have been if we didn't have Zorko.
Yeah. Do you reckon Gold Coast are kicking themselves, or they're just like, let's just forget we ever did that?
That was a weird one though, because like they had rights to him and then they traded the rights. Like he was never actually on their list.
Yeah, along those lines, like Freo did with Andrew McLeod, and that is another guy who was an amazing footballer.
Geez.
Like those two grand finals.
Talking about letting one slip through your fingers.
Yeah, like, and I don't even know who they got, and I don't think they want to know who they got because it's Oh no, they did. They got a guy from the Crows who played about 3 games, and apparently his knee was cooked for about a year before that, and the Crows knew it. So yeah, shrewd recruiting.
What an absolute steal!
Yeah,
and he'll go on to be he is a club legend, McLeod.
Oh yeah, I have him in my top 5 Indigenous players I've ever seen, and probably in my top 15 to 20 overall players I've ever seen. Like just those 2 final series, especially the 2 grand finals when they won the premierships, like he was unbelievable.
Oh yeah,
and it took Robert Harvey, a great at the game, to beat him for those 2 Brownlows in those 2 years as well.
Yeah. Oh, geez, we were spoilt for the 2000s, weren't we?
Yeah, well, that was in the 90s, McLeod and Robert Harvey. But yeah, the 90s and 2000s, I reckon probably up until probably 04. Yeah. So I'm going to say from 92 to 04 was some of the best football I've ever seen.
Did something bad happen in 04?
Yeah, Paul Roos and Sydney changed the way everybody played the game. Yeah, it came a little bit.
Lynch got into a big fist fight.
Yeah, well, I don't know if he connected any, but
that was shadow boxing.
Yeah. So speaking of shadow, how did you find our debutant?
It was a bit of a mixed bag. I mean, obviously, it wasn't great when he got his first touch was a turnover, or a call against him, I should say.
Yeah, the holding the ball or whatever it was they called.
Yeah, but I thought he played really well after that. He obviously got Barry up with another goal not long after that. And leading back to our conversation before about Jackson Rewalt, he said something that was really true, and it was what I felt at the time, and hopefully a lot of other fans heard him and thought the same. Where he said basically, you could let a bad experience like that in your first game ruin your confidence and just shatter you for the rest of the game, and possibly affect you longer into the future from that. But he didn't. He got back up there and he played some good footy, and he didn't let it bother him, and he showed what he can actually do and why he was brought into the team.
Yeah, and I was at a game, VFL game, Williamstown versus Port Melbourne, a few years ago. It was probably 2 years ago, Good Friday, and that's like basically the big derby game in the VFL of the Victorian teams.
Yep.
They're on opposite sides of the Westgate Bridge, opposite sides of the Yarra River, and the two Wharfie teams basically And a couple of Williamstown boys made mistakes early on, and it gave Port a bit of a sniff. Now, Williamstown ended up winning by about 50-something points, but at that stage it was close. And the coach, Justin Platt, called those two boys up to the front of the huddle and he said, don't ever let your mistakes define you. And Shadeau Brain did exactly that. He didn't let him define that one mistake define him.
Yeah, and that's it. He could have got into his shell after that and just went through the motions and possibly risk getting dropped next week. But I don't think he will, and I don't think he should.
No.
I think he finished off the game earning his spot.
Yeah, and even in that last play where he got the ball and tried to force it forward to a teammate in a better position to potentially get us a goal.
Yeah,
knowing full well that the pressure of the whole entire supporter base was on him.
Oh yeah,
and he was composed, and he's just obviously the whole play. Now it's not his fault. The whole play was just that little bit too late to unfold the way we wanted it to, but he showed composure, he showed maturity, and he showed that he can do what needs to be done at that level when the pressure's on.
Yep. And I would probably keep him I'd put him into the main team, to be honest, and I'd probably send maybe Pryor back to the VFL. But saying that, the injury list hasn't dropped for the week yet. It drops Tuesday afternoons. We're recording this on Monday night. I believe Noah Answorth is due back from his concussion if it hasn't lingered.
Yeah, that's right. It's a case of if at the moment.
And I think he'd probably be a better inclusion than both of those guys. And if that's the case, if he does come back in, it probably will be Pryor that goes out, and then Brain might stay as the sub, is probably what I think might happen.
Yeah, or there'll be a watch and act on Kyle Lohman as well.
Yeah, well, he finished out the game.
Yeah, so he obviously passed the HIA, but obviously concussions symptoms can be delayed.
Of course, and I mean, there's no guarantee that Answorth does come back this week. He's just out of the protocol restriction, saying
that's right. That's right. So it's just a watch and act. We'll see what happens there, and obviously, when we talk about the selection, we'll know a bit more.
That's right.
And if the injury list drops before I make this episode go to air, I'll insert it like I did last week.
Yep.
As well. Okay, so I'm just going to interject here with something I've just recorded post-recording, so to speak. And the injury list, the Q scan. Geez, that's hard to say. Yeah, so the injury list has come in. Noah Answorth is a test with his concussion. Devon Robertson's a test of his shoulder. Zach Bailey's a week away with an ankle. Carter Michael 1 to 2 weeks of his knee. Brennan Starcevich with the calf is 3 to 4 weeks away. And they have Will Ashcroft 6 to 8 weeks away with his knee, which is probably the safest and best option at this stage. And then obviously Lincoln McCarthy, Darcy Gardner, Kadeen Coleman and Tom Duday are all season and probably through to mid next season as well with their knees, hopefully. That's the end of it. And yeah, I think Noah Answorth should be back this week. And in my opinion, Devon Robertson maybe gets some games into his legs in the VFL before coming back. All right, back to the show. So yeah, I thought Logan Morris, for the moments he was involved in, was pretty good. Again, showed some composure.
Yeah, he had glimpses of really top level footy, but he obviously went quiet for good chunks of the game. But he got 2 goals in the end, I think it was.
Yeah, he could have had 3, but that's life. 2 goals from a guy playing his first full game of, well, it's not his first full game of football, but his first proper full game of senior football. You know, as a starting player.
Yeah.
In a big away game, hostile crowd.
Yeah, I thought he did. I thought he did enough. I thought and he showed that he's definitely going to be someone that will be worth putting the time and effort into the development in the future.
That's right. Look, ideally he would still be learning his craft in the VFL for a few more weeks and improving on what he's got. But this is the hand we've been dealt, and he's in the team and he's not doing anything to give the selectors a reason to drop him.
Yep.
And yeah, look, Bruce Revel, again, he had some quiet periods as well, but again, I feel he stays in the team as well.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah.
I probably wouldn't drop anyone.
No.
But I would just, if there's an injury or, if we can get someone, well, I don't know. It depends who's available. We'll have to see on Tuesday. And then obviously we're going to record later in the week when we do a preview of the upcoming Richmond game.
Yeah.
But in just touching on Morris before we moved on, I really liked the club went back and gave him a jumper presentation in his second game to make up for having to force him through.
So they got our man Sam Mays, who we
that was recently. A pleasant surprise.
Yeah, and mate, look, Maisie's a really lovely guy too. We sort of come across him a bit before he got traded, and I actually sent him a message on social media when his trade to Port Adelaide went through, and just said, "Look, mate, you're always going to be a lion to me. You stuck with the club through our worst ever periods, as the Brisbane Lions." Not including the Bears or Fitzroy periods, but you stuck it out. You stuck it out when you were playing NEFL every week for a long period, and that will never be forgotten. It shows that you're a loyal sort of guy, and the fact that he's come back to the club to do that says a lot about his character.
Yeah, well, it didn't. I mean, it didn't. He didn't really want to go when he was traded. Obviously, there were some circumstances that I don't know if everyone is aware of, but personal circumstances.
It was pretty well publicised that there was 2 members of his family with illnesses, and another member of the family who needed a full-time carer, which they wouldn't have gotten with the illnesses to the other members. So that was pretty public at the time. So I'm not saying anything out of line there.
No, and I don't think anyone begrudged him going home.
No,
so I certainly didn't, and I know you didn't.
It was
I've never had any ill will against him.
Kind of like a Dan McStay situation where those guys arrived at the club when it was at its lowest ebb, gave everything they had, and the club didn't have the same opportunities they could have got somewhere else. Plus, they both had family illnesses back in their home states. That they wanted to be there for that family member. Yeah,
and I get it. It makes sense.
Yeah,
family always comes first.
100%. Yeah, and as well, we both found out last night Mother's Day trumps the game of footy to a certain extent.
It does. I haven't missed a live game in be coming up on a decade now, at least close to. But that's how much I love my partner.
That's it, mate. Like true love never dies.
That's it, mate.
Yeah. So there we go. So before we get on to David King, have you got any other observations about the game that you want to bring up now, or
not so much. Just a fun one. I'm just reading through my notes. So talking about Kelly Underwood. Did you hear the part where she called Kai Lauman?
Yeah, I think she went to say something else and got caught halfway through it.
Yeah, she said he got the ball or something, and she went, Lauman's got the ball.
Yeah, that doesn't offend me.
No, I know. It's just it's always funny when they muck up our players' names.
It's not the worst thing in the world. We've got a lot of Lehmans in our family, and I nearly say Lehman sometimes because I'm so used to saying that word. So.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
No, I didn't really have anything else for that game. It was kind of, I don't know. It was. I don't mind the draw as much as some people did. I was saying to my dad before, like the fact that we got no injuries and we got a little something out of it, and we didn't give up at the last minute and concede a loss. I think I'm taking that as a win and moving on.
Any time over the last 5 years, that's a 5-point loss.
Yeah, for sure.
And even when the Crows started coming back, the boys didn't drop their bundle like they have been known to do.
Yep.
They didn't just start going big dump kicks down the line. There was one or two that didn't come off, but they were still trying to be aggressive with their ball movement.
Yep.
And aggressive with their defending as well. So
yeah, no, I was very proud of how they finished up the game. And,
yeah,
I just took the 2 points and glad we didn't get any fresh injuries. Well, at least Loman finished the game. I don't know what's going to happen during the week if they pull him out or whatever, but it looked like we didn't have any injuries.
Yeah, and as far as the tipping goes, I mean, you tipped a loss. I tipped a single-digit win. Let's just call it a draw between the two of us.
I think we got it smack on if we look at it that way.
Yeah, that's it. And I tipped Charlie Cameron to kick 3. What did he get? 2? Should have had 3.
I don't think any crazy man would pick a draw and just go, it just feels like it's going to be a draw this week.
Yeah,
I don't think anyone's ever going to do that.
Unless you're Bart Simpson and Todd Flanders. I actually watched that video this afternoon of their little mini golf game. I needed something to cheer me up.
Simpsons always hits the spot.
Yeah, I noticed the club started using some Simpson stuff on their social media.
That's good.
But remember where you saw it first, fans?
Yes, we invented Simpsons memes.
Probably. All right, so David King.
Oh, yeah.
As we said earlier, he was speaking on the first crack on Fox Footy, who we are not endorsed by or sponsored by, so
nope.
We can say whatever we want. Whereas I
actually do like First Crack, but I don't like most of their shows. I don't like Bounce. I used to like 360 and On the Couch, but I've fallen off those. First Crack's the only one that I listen to. So I listen to the audio version.
Yeah.
In my podcast. I don't watch their actual content on the TV. But it's they've usually got decent points. But yeah, King this week so off the mark.
I've written in bold letters and underlined David King witch hunt, and that's what it is. And it's a Fox Footy witch hunt. So just getting to what you're saying about First Crack, I don't mind. Like Lee Montagna's got some pretty good points he makes most of the time.
Yeah.
I don't always agree with everything he says, but that's the beauty of having an opinion, right?
Yeah. I also don't mind Ben Dixon as well.
I like Ben Dixon. I really rate him as a football analyst, but as well, like that season of The Recruit that he was on, he really showed his football knowledge and just his people skills as well.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, he was a bit sort of flashy and fancy as a player, but yeah, he's a pretty smart football guy, and I do appreciate a lot of what he has to say as well.
Yeah, definitely.
And look, David King, sometimes I think he's right on the money too. I'll be open and honest about that.
Yeah, look, and I've agreed with him a lot in the past about general things, and I've agreed with him a lot in the past about Lions-related things when he's called out certain things. But I just thought this wasn't it this time.
Yeah, and excuse me, as we'll find out towards the end of the quotes that I'm going to read out, he tries to get a little bit hip and get into a bit of TikTok speak, which is like, it's like me trying to, because he's probably about my age, maybe a little bit older than me. It's like me.
That's why we have a teenage contractor for our TikTok stuff.
Yeah, that's it. So, yeah, speaking on the First Crack, which we're not contractually obliged to endorse, King said of the result, this result is on their senior players. And I think he's sort of insinuating that we lost.
Yeah, that there is an inference there that a draw is inherently a bad thing.
Yeah.
Which I just don't agree with.
Yeah, and he showed vision from early in the game when Joe Danaher had a shot at goal from outside 50 instead of passing to Charlie Cameron. And he said, these are big quotes now. He's the man every time the ball comes to Joe. Can I have a shot is the first thought. This happens every week with Joe Danaher. The amount of times I've seen Charlie Cameron burned by Joe Danaher with that sort of kick. And look at Charlie, he knows. Does this hurt you? Well, it does hurt you because it creates a model that says each to their own. We're not going to have that old Geelong model of the unselfish score assist brand. So I got to get your opinion, but I want to say one thing first.
Mm-hmm.
If Joe Danaher's outside 50 and he's got the ball, he has to have a shot.
Yeah, I would trust him more than anyone.
That is his
game.
best place to kick the ball from.
Yep.
Anywhere inside 50, I'm nervous. Anywhere outside, I'm kicking back.
And if he's on the run as well, I'd back him even more than if he's having a shot anywhere.
Yeah, and if he's on the boundary, I'm going to back him even more. But the thing is, and I wrote this comment on a Fox Footy post because they had about 4 or 5 posts about this exact thing today on their Facebook alone. I didn't look anywhere else.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, this is where I got the witch hunt thing from. It's like every 2 hours they put the same post again, but it's with a different headline.
Yeah.
It's just a witch hunt. But anyway, I got to keep going.
Well, my opinion on that is it's ironic because I remember the exact same criticisms coming through last year, but the opposite. That I think it was King and a few others were saying the Lions were being too generous in trying to make sure that they were handing the ball off instead of just taking accountability and taking the shot.
Yeah.
I remember Joe particularly getting torched by the media last year because he had easy shots that he was not taking because he wanted to hand off to someone else, and then the ball got tumbled and then it rolled through or something like that instead of him just taking the kick.
Yeah.
And I remember King going, "Just take the shot. You're the man. You're the full forward. Just take responsibility. You're the big guy on the big cash. It's your job to get the job done." And now he's saying, "Oh, well, you should be sharing it around more." It's like, well, which way do you want it, King?
Yeah, and it's like earlier in the season, like probably 2 or 3 weeks ago, he's like, "Oh, Joe Danaher is just not kicking enough goals to win games for Brisbane."
Yeah.
And now you're telling him not to kick goals.
Yeah.
Shut up, idiot.
Yeah. I usually like King, but it just felt like he didn't know what he had to say for the show.
Yeah.
And he just watched the last game of the round just before his show started, and he was scrambling for notes, and he was like, "Oh, Joe, I'll go with Joe. That's my talking point."
It's almost like he had money bet on that game, and he didn't
allegedly.
Allegedly, that's why I said it's almost as if.
Yep.
And it's almost as if he didn't get the result he wanted and didn't win the money.
Mm.
And he's blaming Joe Danaher because maybe Joe kicking a goal or Charlie Cameron kicking an extra goal was part of his multi.
It was such a strange out of nowhere.
Yeah. So David King did continue on getting back to just the senior playing group.
Mm.
And he says, if they were selfless, they win that game. But they've got one bloke in the forward line who's a constant thorn in their side in close moments or big moments like this. That's a game that slipped through their fingers because one bloke wanted to be the man to the exception and exclusion of everyone else. I was really disappointed with some of their senior players late in the game. It's a draw, so you've got to temper it, but they had opportunities to put that game to bed. This is one they've left on the table. Full credit to the Crows for rolling the dice and getting themselves back in. But this, in my eyes, is a big L for Brisbane. Nice TikTok speak there, Kingy. So he's been a constant thorn in the side and lets games slip through the fingers because he can't deliver in the big moments. Do you remember the finals in the game against Richmond a couple of years ago, Kingy?
Yes.
What did Joe do very late in that game?
He won us the game.
Yeah. Funny about that, isn't it?
Yeah. Look, Joe does Joe things, and that's what makes Joe Joe.
Yeah.
He'll kick straight out of the full 20 meters directly in front, but he'll kick a running 70-meter on the wing goal.
Yeah.
And we love Joe because we love Joe, and he's a Lion, and he'll always have a special place in our hearts. But you just expect that that's just who he is. That's just part of his game. It's not going to change anytime soon. He's in the second half of his career at this stage.
Yeah, well,
hopefully he's got many more years left, but
yep.
He's not a young, inexperienced forward.
No, he's about 29 or so. So
yeah, he's 29, and he'll hopefully he's got another 6 years or so in him. But at the same time, like, he's probably not going to change the way he plays, and wouldn't necessarily want him to. It's not like we're completely reliant on Joe to win games. I mean, there's Charlie Cameron's been down in form this year, and we've had an explanation of, he had some off-season surgery, and it's, affected his ability to have a proper preseason, and his confidence is down, and that's all. That's fair enough. But we're also missing a lot of important guys. Like Link McCarthy just did his knee. He's a very important part of our goal scoring. He's good for one or two pretty much every game.
Yeah, and a guy that I'm sure both of us will bring up later in this episode did step into that role really well.
Mm. Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I know who you're talking about, yeah.
Yeah, so but the thing that rankles with me the most out of all of that in the end, I guess, is the part where he said full credit to the Crows for rolling the dice and getting themselves back in. Now, the Crows were at home.
Mm-hmm.
One, you got a 1,000% Crows audience, spectator audience.
Yep.
Who, to their credit, they were really loud and really supportive of their club for the whole entirety of the game. But also, to their discredit, the constant booing was a bit annoying, but every club does it.
Yeah, it's part of footy.
Every club boos, so just you get over it.
Yeah.
They're higher on the ladder than us.
Only just.
But the fact is they were above us on the ladder.
Mm-hmm.
Their home game, their, majority of the crowd are their people. They got things in their favour. And he makes it sound like they're the last place team who haven't won a game and we're on top and we've just dropped a golden opportunity to finish on top of the ladder.
Yeah.
Mate, two very even teams really over the course of the season have had a very even game.
Yeah, I mean, it takes two to tango, and it's two-team effort to get a draw.
Yeah,
you could say that the Crows missed a few opportunities too, and I'm sure that their coaching staff will say the same. I'm sure that some of the fans realise that as well.
And look, I could name some moments and some guys for the Crows, but
sure,
that's not what we're here for. We're not here.
And I could name a few Lions, moments with Lions players that were way worse than whatever happened with Joe. I just don't know why he picked Joe out of anyone.
Yeah, and that's it. So I guess we'll just move on from David King now. Someone mentioned that David King was a bit of an ordinary footballer, and I may have said that his position was left back home. But something with David King too. It's funny how he brings up his dislike of so-called selfish players, yet he lauds his former teammate Wayne Carey for being a one-man team.
Yeah.
But anyway, let's move on.
Yeah, I don't know if I like anyone that worships Wayne Carey.
Yeah, well, great footballer, but obviously not a great person. And notice I didn't put him in the same conversation this episode with some of those other great people.
No, I noticed. It was appreciated.
Yeah, and I know people have their opinions on Gary Ablett Sr., but I met him at a petrol station one day, and that was when I realised that I'm now a Geelong resident.
Yep.
I'm one of us.
Yep.
Speaking of which, it's been really quiet in the old G-Town since Friday night.
Yeah, that's strange.
Not much traffic around. The shops were empty.
That's a quiet fortnight.
Yeah. It's it was good. Even a couple of blokes at my work took a sickie today.
Emotional recovery.
Yeah. So, one other thing, you mentioned Charlie Cameron a couple of minutes ago.
Mm-hmm.
So on the Gettable podcast, which is one we're not going to give a shout out to, so I might bleep out the name of that. Cal Toomey, and I will admit I do listen to it myself. So, anyway, Cal Toomey, who we all respect, we all know he's pretty good. He knows his stuff. He's come out with this little notion that Carlton should go all in, his words, for Charlie Cameron during this year's trade period. And then went on to say, if not Cameron, then a player of similar calibre, because the Blues need an electric small forward as their possible missing puzzle piece. I mean, firstly, isn't that why they recruited Jack Martin from the Gold Coast?
And a few other guys.
And that little redheaded guy that everyone hates.
Yeah.
keep getting him mixed up with another guy, Cottrell, I think it is.
Yeah. Oh, he's the one that looks like Mitch Robinson's son, right?
Yeah. He looks more like Mitch Robinson's son than Mitch Robinson's son.
Yeah.
I'm not insinuating anything. Don't at me.
No, the age gap probably doesn't make sense, but he looks like a spitting image of Mitch Robinson, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. And then he went on to say that Cameron has 1 year left on his deal, but he also had 1 year left on his deal at Adelaide when he joined us.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything in that at all.
Nah, I think he's just trying to find stuff to talk about.
Yeah, look, I like Toomey, and his mail on the draft stuff's usually bang on.
It is.
But with trades, I mean, I don't know. He's not my go-to for trades. It's Sam McClure, hands down.
Oh yeah, big footy has all the real deals.
Yeah, of course, never misses.
Yeah, Sam McClure, the patron saint of big footy. Unlike we have a better patron saint in Mark Wahlberg.
Yeah. Yes, blessed are thou, Marky Mark.
If you know, you know.
First time listeners are going to be like, what the heck?
Listen back to all of our other episodes. My mate from Boston gets a few mentions here and there. So Cal Toomey's probably gotten into Matt Rendell territory with that Charlie Cameron call there.
Yeah, that's a strange one from him.
Yeah.
He usually doesn't mention things like that unless he's got some mail. But for him to insinuate, not that, they're in talks or anything like that, but they should go after him. That's a complete shot in the dark.
Yeah, that's not really his sort of territory. Maybe he's getting put under the pump to create more talking points.
I would have thought he would have been focusing on the mid-season draft coming up.
Yeah, I would have thought so as well. Yeah, I would have thought so as well. We will talk more about that in one of our next 2 episodes as well. I think we need to see if we can get Alicia or someone on. Yeah,
well, there's some interesting. I mean, just a quick summary. We've got obviously 4 long-term injury spots now.
Yeah.
So we could get 4 guys in. I think Fagan and Danny both said that they're looking at getting maybe 1 or 2, not using up all 4.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
Yeah, and I heard this on some socials, but there was a rumor of us picking up Daniel Lloyd for a couple of for 6 months.
Yeah, I don't hate it.
I don't hate it either. I mean, he's fresh out of the game.
Yeah, he's fresh out of the game, and he's been around the clubs. Yeah, he knows how we play the game. He knows the boys, and that's the thing. You bring in 4 boys, and probably 2 of them are going to play VFL for the rest of the year. Maybe 3.
Yeah, well, speaking of the VFL, actually, just a quick little interesting fact. So with Shadeau Brain debuting and Morris and Revel debuting last week, there's only 5 guys on our whole list that haven't played AFL games yet.
Yeah.
Which is incredible, usage of players.
Yeah, and it goes against the old fan theory of Fagan's favourites, and we don't give guys opportunities, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, I mean, 3 of the 5 are guys we picked up last year, and one of them's been injured for most of the time since then.
Correct, yeah.
So Reece Torrance, Zane Zakostelski, I've just forgotten the other guy we drafted's name.
Luke
Lloyd, and then obviously Henry Smith and Callan Lane, the rucks.
Yeah.
They're the only ones that haven't played an AFL game. And then obviously we've got the 2 guys we got from other clubs who haven't played games for us yet, but have played AFL games. So we've got Brendan Ryan and Tom Duday.
Yeah, and I think Luke Lloyd's going to be a long-term project. He had a really good debut game in our VFL, but
his first week was tremendous. Got pretty quiet after that. Same with Torrent.
Yeah, the Torrent started off really good. I don't think he's been bad either. He's probably still learning his role and that sort of thing. Out of those guys, I think probably. Zach Ostelski's a long way away from a debut.
Out of the 5, I think Henry Smith's probably the closest to a debut.
Yeah, Smith and Torrent are probably in that order. Yeah. And I mean, I haven't seen Brandon Ryan play for us yet. I've seen him play for Hawthorn. I've seen him play local footy here in Geelong.
I've seen snippets of him in the VFL, and he knows what he's doing, but he's not kicking the door down.
No.
Zane haven't really seen too much because he only just came back. He's only played one VFL game.
Yeah, he's played the one game, so yeah.
And then Torrent and Lloyd have been somewhat quiet, but they're probably a bit down the line, maybe next year debut.
Yeah, and really, there's no need for them to come into the team yet anyway.
No.
It's not like we desperately need to fill a position for those guys.
No. We've got some soldiers coming back from the injury list soon anyway.
Yeah. All right, so
yep.
You've got some mail. Do you want to read some of that out?
Yeah, sure. Just pull one up.
Yep. So we'll get into Al's mailbag.
You've got mail.
Alrighty. So, yep, cool. Perfect. Okay. So, Michael Matthews on Facebook said that being Tasmanian, sports news from Channel 9 never or seldom does comment on Queensland football. Then we get BT commentating. We may not even exist. I'm a Lions fan, an old Roy boy. So shout out to Michael.
Yes.
Ash is an old Roy boy as well.
Yep.
And then we've got Robbie Crawley on Instagram. To be honest, as much as I wanted the win, we walked out with the second best option, getting 2 points. Then we play Richmond, Hawthorn, and then the bye. So should get back on track. And I agree with that, to be honest.
Yeah.
I've been much more positive than negative about the bye. Sorry, not the bye, the draw. And I think the next 2 games are very winnable, especially the Richmond one. And it being a home game for us as well. That's it looks to be like it should be a good game. So yep, I agree with that, Robbie.
Yeah, if we were desperately fighting for a top 4 spot or something, the draw would have hurt. But in the context of our season, the draw doesn't hurt. It probably helps more than it hinders.
Yeah. I look, and I'm at the point now where I'm probably not even going to be disappointed if we miss finals, but I think we'll be around the mark. I think somewhere between 9th and 12th is probably pretty accurate for where we'll be. But also, we don't know. There's so much of the season left.
Yeah, I'm still thinking 7 to 10.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I'm a little bit different to you, but it's a long season. I mean, we haven't even got to the mid-season bye yet, so who knows?
Yep.
Okay, and then we've got a follow-up comment / response from someone who commented last week, Deshaun Panoni. I think I got that right this time.
Yes, you did.
His comment's actually about our pronunciation of his name.
Yeah.
So he said the second time you said my name was correct, but it's all good, lads. Big fan. Got my notifications ready for future episodes. Enjoying hearing another perspective on everything Lions. So thanks to Sean. We love hearing the positive feedback from you, and we
absolutely
love that you tune in every week. So we appreciate that, man. Thank you.
Yeah, and I see his name popping up, giving us a thumbs up on all the YouTube versions of our episodes as well.
Yeah.
And obviously YouTube's not where we get the majority of our listens from, but some people prefer to do it on YouTube, and Deshaun's one of those guys, and we love the feedback and we love the support.
Oh yeah, we love it. I mean, the podcast is actually popping off on Apple and Spotify. A bit quieter on YouTube, but look, we put it on many platforms to make it convenient for everyone to listen where they prefer.
That's it.
Yep. And then this one is so this was a TikTok that you put up in about Cam McCarthy's passing. We put a small little video up just to say how we felt about that.
Yeah.
And 23 Sundance on TikTok just said very unfortunate. And then D Roll, I think it's how you pronounce that, Roll.
Yeah, I think it could be Di is her first name.
Di Roll.
Maybe short for Diane.
Said on the same video, so sad. So that was really tragic. We touched on that last week. Very unexpected. We've learned a little bit more about the circumstances around that since then.
Yeah.
And just all around a really tragic event for a 29-year-old to lose their life.
Yeah, absolutely. And and the Fremantle Dockers and the Sydney Swans as well both did an amazing pre-game sort of tribute for him as well.
Yeah, and the flowers in the goal square from Fife and
Alex Pearce.
That was really good. That was really touching.
The emotions, not just from the Freo players, but even the Sydney boys, you could see how emotional they were feeling.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, regardless of what club you play for, they're all sort of brothers in arms.
Of course. And I
And
mean, you could see that the Dockers players were affected by that. And I
yeah,
saw a few comments online maybe suggesting that the game should have been postponed or pushed back or something like that. I don't disagree with that really, but logistically it would be very hard to do that. 'Cause, you
yeah.
pay for tickets and all
And
that
look,
sort
there
of
is
stuff.
precedent for that when Phil Walsh passed away. The Crows and Geelong, I think off the top of my head. I think they ended up just getting 2 points each or 4 points each or something, and
Yeah.
they didn't play the game. So it was they had a bit more notice though.
Yeah, look, I don't begrudge the AFL for the decision they made, but
Yeah.
it was a weird one, and I felt bad for the Dockers because you could see how important it was to them, and they were clearly very emotionally affected.
Yeah, and
They didn't
look,
play their best game because of it.
and look, ultimately, like, what did they kick 1-7 or something to start the game? Had they kicked 5-2 or 4-3,
Yeah,
the game would have been completely different.
yeah, exactly right.
And we know that feeling all too well.
Yep. Oh well, that's the mailbag for this week.
That's not too bad.
Thanks everyone for commenting in on the various platforms and things like that. Keep it up. We love to hear from you. Most of the things we've had come through so far have been very positive.
Yeah.
So thank you to all those people. We love hearing your feedback and which parts of the show you really enjoy, and if you've got any suggestions for content you think we should add to the show, send that through as well, and we'd love to hear from you.
Yep. One of my friends from down this part of the world who I spent a bit of time with thought that my Blair Witch impersonation from the start of the last episode would tickled their fancy. So I did say I was going to do it to them beforehand, and they said I wouldn't. So.
Well, hey, part of this is just to make people happy and make them laugh and make them smile, and if they just like listening along, like they're the third person in the conversation, and that's why I like listening to some podcasts sometimes as well. So
yeah,
no, it's good. We do it for good, positive, happy reasons.
That's it. Well, no, that's good, and again, thanks to everybody for your support. So I'm going to get into some weird stats for this week.
Play it on me.
And it's all to do with the commentary.
Yep.
And as I said, I missed 7 minutes of the commentary. I got to see the whole entire game. So these stats could be a little bit skewed. But so the two stat leaders for this week in the weird stats of the week. The first one, and this came up 7 times that I heard, was the mention that Harris Andrews and Elliot Himmelberg are opponents tonight. Like, you don't need to say it 7 times. We know.
Just in case you forgot they were playing on each other.
And another 7 times that I heard, and I may have missed one because he kicked the goal while I had the TV muted, was that Logan Morris ate Macca's pre-game the week before and he was wearing Will Ashcroft's boots.
Yep.
And mentioning that this is his first game of AFL football in his own boots 7 times. The use
also,
of the...
Yeah, sorry, go on.
Yeah, go on, you go.
I was going to say, also to add to that one, Shadeau Brain and his number of siblings.
Yeah,
also got heavy use.
Yeah, I've got that one on my list.
Yeah, sorry, man.
That's all right. I've got a couple that I won't bring up because they only ended up being like 2 or 3 times. But using the word professional something, like professional free kick, professional out of bounds, professional ruckman to describe the Big O, professional handball was used as well. And it wasn't just by one commentator, it was by the 2 lead commentators, Dwayne and Kelly.
Yep.
Like, not everything's a professional something. Some things are just something.
Yeah, well, they're professional players, so it's kind of an oxymoron, isn't it?
It is. And we got that 7 times as well. And mentioning that we had a worst third quarter team of the season, that got a run 6 times in the third quarter.
Yep.
And once at halftime. So that's also 7.
Just to prepare the fans in advance for what was actually a pretty average third quarter, to be honest.
Yeah, which we won in the end.
Yeah, true.
And the quarter by quarters as well. So it was 3 points at quarter time, 2 points at half time, 1 point at three-quarter time, 0 points at final time.
Yep.
And the last one I'm going to chuck in, this was mentioned 4 times by the same commentator. These exact words, Soligo in hot form.
Mm.
I mean, there's variations you could use.
He was all right. I don't think he was.
Yeah.
I don't think he set the world on fire.
I think it was more to do with his season overall, just to remind us that he's come into the midfield this year and done really well for himself.
Yep.
But we all know this because we watch footy and we're all nuffies.
Yep.
So I've got some of Dwayne Zinger's.
Okay.
He loves using the Joe Show, which I quite like. It's good fun, that one. Himmelberg was having a shot at goal, and he said, Himmelberg, already got 1, hasn't got 2. Okay, we know that. And he loves a bit of Harry Sharp action. Sharp, and a sharp move that was.
Yep.
Yeah, using Sharp.
There was one from Underwood as well where she went, and Sharp, he is not when he didn't kick the goal.
I remember that one, actually. Mark Keane, he's keen to get it out there. Okay.
He loves his puns, doesn't he?
And there's one more. There was probably a couple more that I couldn't remember, but a curtain call by Matthew Nix. Daniel Curtin out.
Oh, God. Has he got kids?
Yeah. He's got adult sons.
Yeah, right. So that makes sense, yeah.
Yeah.
He's got all the dad jokes right down to puns.
He said on SEN one day that his sons cringe listening to him on the radio. So,
I mean, who's dad? Who wouldn't with their dad, honestly?
I know. I mean, hey, I'm a 49-year-old dad, and I bring out the dad jokes to my teenagers, and they just roll their eyes, put their headphones on, and ignore me.
Oh, look, as soon as I was in my early 20s and I found out that I was going to be a dad, I just jumped straight on the dad joke train, and I never looked back, mate.
That's it. That's the way. That's the way it should be.
That's it.
Yeah, and funny thing, like my dad was really bad at telling jokes.
Mm-hmm.
He'd get halfway through a long-winded joke and go, "Oh, and something about this or something else," and then laugh. And I'll be like,
"Yeah,
hang on, you haven't even told me the rest of the joke yet. You're laughing."
Oh, I'm shocking about that. I'll start telling a joke, and then halfway through, I'll remember that I was supposed to add some additional information, and I'll just completely muck it up. But it'll just be such a mess that it becomes funny in the end.
Yeah, and a shout out to my dad as well. So he's been in and out of hospital a little bit the last couple of weeks. He's been ill. He's had a bit of a rough time of it since he retired from working. He was forced into retirement by a heart attack a few years back, and he's a bloke who was a workaholic, so it was pretty tough for him. And he's back at home, but he's not doing great. But he did have to have a surgical procedure 2 weeks ago, and he's lucky he's got a really, really good wife to look after him, who's obviously a good mum to the rest of us. And I'm pretty sure.
I hope he gets better soon, mate. That's good to hear.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he does listen when he can. So he may listen to this. So yeah, just keep punching, mate.
Hope you do better soon, mate.
Yeah, the whole family's behind you, and just glad to have you home and not in hospital still.
That's it, mate.
So I guess we'll move on to something a little bit more positive.
Yeah, we've had a few ups and downs in this podcast, haven't we?
Yeah, that's it. But that's life,
mate.
Life has its ups and downs. So I'll get onto my ticks.
Sure.
So my first tick is Jasper Fletcher.
Oh, okay. Yep.
Yeah, I feel like statistically it wasn't a brain busting game, but wingmen generally don't get big stats. But I feel it was his best game of the season.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, actually.
Yeah, and again, it wasn't a 4-quarter performance because no one had one.
Mm-hmm.
But he impacted the contest a lot when it was hot at times in the first and last quarters, and he tried his guts out. And I don't know his tracker stats, but I feel like he covered a hell of a lot more ground than what he has been as well.
He always seemed to pop up wherever the ball was.
Yeah.
So I would imagine that his Ks were pretty high.
Yeah, and that's look. Again, he's only a teenager still, so he's still learning this. But this is what you want from your wingman. You want to get him. You want him to get from contest to contest to contest, as well as helping out the back sort of forwards, whichever one that they've drawn a straw for that night.
Yep.
And I feel as though he was doing that, and he showed great maturity. Didn't try to be too fancy or do anything that he wasn't capable of doing. He played within his limits, but he did, in my opinion, and obviously yours, played his best game of the season.
Yep, I agree.
And it can only go up from here.
Yep. I'm a big Fletcher fan, so it's good to see him back at form because he did really well last year.
Yeah, and I used to love watching his dad play footy, even when he played for the other 25 clubs he played for.
Yeah.
He always he was the same. He just popped up when he was needed. And so my next tick, moving on from that, is Callum Ah Chee.
Yep.
Like, what else is there to say? What a comeback. He kicked goals. He popped up in key moments when the game was hot the whole time, but when it was really hot, he got in the kitchen.
Oh yeah.
And there's a Dwayneism from me.
He's rubbing off on you.
Yeah. Oh, look, I have a begrudging respect for him.
Yeah. Look, I don't mind him. There's definitely worse commentators than him out there.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, but Cal, he looked good. He looked fit. He looked strong. He looked determined, and he loves a goal, doesn't he?
Yeah. Well, he kicked 4-1. And that's the equal highest score of anyone on the field. So Darcy Fogarty also got 4-1.
Yep.
But yeah, he's. Oh, gee, is that the most goals he's ever kicked in a game? Is that his PB?
I'm going to say yes, but
yeah, I can't imagine him kicking more than that.
I will do some more research on that.
Yeah, we'll have to come back to that. But surely it would have to be either there or around that mark.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like he doesn't, like he played as sort of a wingman halfback at different times of his career, so he wasn't necessarily a goal kicker. So it is possible that is his best. So yeah, good on Cal. We love him here, and we loved him last night.
Yep, definitely agree.
My next tick is Logan Morris. We've sort of already discussed the reasons why for that.
Yep.
And again, the caveat is that he's still learning his craft and still has a long way to go, but he's not
second game player.
He's not fazed by the occasion.
Nah.
He loves it. He soaks it up. It's like Darcy Wilmot when he first came into the team. The bigger the occasion, the hotter the game, the more he soaks up the atmosphere and wants to be a part of it.
Yeah, I mean, so you're right. I mean, Wilmot, a lot of the debutants we've actually had in recent times have come straight in and made an impact, whereas in the last few years, like we're talking not this year or last year, but previous years to that, debutants didn't really have that much impact.
Yeah, look,
I felt straight away.
Probably like Alex Witherden's first 8 games, but
like Rayner took a while to get going. Barry McCullers took a little while to get going.
Yeah. But I think just because the guys coming through are much more mature for their age. And like the under 18 systems in Victoria and the Colts in South Australia, WA, and you got Colts up there too, haven't you?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, the Colts systems around the various states as well. They're so much more professional than they've ever been.
Yep.
And you see it even now. You go to local footy. I've watched a little bit of local footy this year down here, and the under 19s comps down here, it's out of this world how professional they are and how big the boys are. Like they're massive.
Yeah. Yeah, so, it's something in the water these days, I think.
Yeah, and you see it with the AFLW as well. The draftees that come in are instantly able to play at the top level, at the top of their game straight away. Because
I mean, there's a big difference between the girls that are coming through now and the girls that were coming through when the AFLW was first up and running. Yeah,
because they've played footy all their lives, whereas the previous generation had that big gap from 14 until the AFLW sort of came along.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad that I mean, obviously we're going to probably talk about that more in the lead up to the AFLW season, but I'm so glad that those opportunities are there now and that gap's kind of closed for those opportunities and the money's being put into the system. There's definitely more that they could do to pump up the AFLW more, make them full-time athletes and things like that. But I think the leaps, it's leaps better than what it used to be, but obviously there's a ways to go as well.
Yeah, and I think with Laura Kane, even though she's not the face of the AFLW, she's the one that's in charge of everything.
Yeah.
Running the show and being an ex-VFLW footballer herself with Melbourne Uni.
Oh, is she? Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know much about her past.
So, Melbourne Uni then sort of went on to become North Melbourne in the AFLW.
Oh, okay.
And she played quite a few games there, and she's only mid-30s now still, so she has played against or with a lot of the players in the AFLW. But on top of that, she's at a young age where she's still on the pulse of where the game is at. So I think the women's league is in good hands with Laura Kane running the show.
Yeah, definitely.
So I'm going to chuck Laura Kane as a tick, and also because she loves Mel Michael. Because who doesn't? I mean, I saw him on the front bar. I thought, geez, man, he is still a rooster.
That's it. I mean, he was my top one in our top five in the last episode for a reason.
Yeah, he's such. Yeah. I could be here all night. I just love the man. And back to the actual tick. So Charlie Cameron gets a tick because I felt that even though he's still not in his best form, his form improved a hell of a lot.
Yeah, it felt like his effort had stepped up.
But
he didn't get the opportunities to match the effort this time.
Yeah, because Joe Danaher's selfish, right?
Of course, yeah.
Geez, I'm vindictive. But
You, King?
Yeah, I don't think Kingy's going to be listening, but you never know.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's on the internet. You never know who's listening, but yeah, I doubt it.
Yeah, and yeah, so I felt that he obviously had a big improvement. Probably the periods over the last 2 weeks, he's shown that he's starting to come back to where he wants to be. He's not there, but he's getting there.
Yeah,
heading in the right direction is what I'm trying to say.
Yep, definitely.
So my next tick is Harris Andrews. What a game! What an amazing game he played. He plays great games every week. Some bloke on social media tried to say that he went missing for the entire game and did nothing, but I don't know what game he was watching.
Yeah, I don't know how you could come to that conclusion.
He's
got to be leading the BNF right now, surely.
Yeah, him and Zorko, I think, probably 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Sure. And again, surprisingly, Josh Dunkley was our highest ranked player as far as I can recall. Again.
I'll never understand how those rankings work.
Yeah. Yeah, well, they're a bit weird. So I got 2 more ticks. Just a quick one is the umpires. Sure. I thought they were pretty good. I don't think there was anything to really complain about from them.
Is this just because it's Umpire Appreciation Week? Is that why they're on your ticks?
No, I just think the last two weeks they haven't had any in our games anyway. There's been no real howlers or anything that I've been up in arms about.
No, it was just the making an injured Charlie stand on the mark for me last week that I was rubbing me the wrong way. But I think in terms of their actual in-game decisions, I thought they were pretty good this week and last week.
Yeah, that's it. And we did discuss that. So, yeah, that is what it is. And I just want to add, this is a tick. I was going to just put this in my general comments, but Kai Lohman and Harris Andrews running up and just checking in on Josh Worrell from the Crows when he got injured.
Yeah, it's good. You love to see it.
Yeah, giving him a bit of a pat on the back and Lohman gave him a little bit of a shoulder massage. So,
shoulder massage.
When you look at that, and then you look at Isaac Rankin running up to Connor McKenna after one of Rankin's teammates kicked the goal, patting him on the bum and getting in his face. It's like, well, we know who the more grounded guys are, don't we?
Yeah, I've never been a big fan of Rankin. I always thought he was a bit cocky. From the moment he drafted to the Suns.
Yeah, I mean, like we've both said, brilliant footballer, but Yeah. Brilliant footballer doesn't mean a good guy.
No, not always.
All right, so you got some crosses for us?
Yep. Yeah, I got 5 crosses.
Yep.
So start off. This one we mentioned before, but it's a big one for me. So putting a debutant as a sub.
Yep.
That's a big cross for me. Not just because I've got a soft spot for Brain because he's an academy boy, but just in general. Like I'd be so like it annoys me every time I see it, and it's not just a Lions thing as well. Anytime it happens throughout the league, because there's a big build up when you got a debutant. They call the parents, then the jumper presentation. It's a big deal. Like it gets an announcement in front of all the players.
Yeah.
There's this big build up, and then he sits on the bench for 3/4 or on a training bike or something.
Yep.
And it just seems very, I don't know, a little disrespectful, a little anticlimactic. I don't like it. And it's weird because in the past, I swear I've heard Fagan say that's something that we don't do.
He has, yeah.
Happened. So
and there's been a couple of father-son guys whose dads were real like club legends at different clubs, and they've been a sub in their first game, and the dad's gone there and done all this social media stuff with the club during the week and whatever, and done media stuff in general.
Yeah.
And then their son starts as a sub. So
yeah, it's just not on. I don't like it. Big cross for me. Anyway, second one is McKenna's form.
Yep.
I'm a big McKenna fan. He's your favorite player. I really appreciate having him on the list, and it just seems like and he's not alone this year where a lot of guys have been out of form, but in a patch where a lot of guys are coming back into form, he seems like he's not one of them at the moment.
Yeah, and the interruptions to late preseason for him with that first injury and then the re-injury obviously hasn't helped, but his form is still pretty patchy and down.
So like I'm not saying drop him or anything like that. I think he's definitely capable of some pretty elite things. So I think it's just a matter of see how he goes, and just check on him from there. Third cross is wasted opportunities. I didn't think it was as egregious as it has been in previous weeks, but it's hard to look at a draw and say that you didn't waste any opportunities.
Yeah. And like I took the glass half full approach to that at one point. Someone was mentioning, inaccuracy is going to cost us this game. And I pointed out that, the Crows have had kicked the same amount of behinds as us.
Yeah, we had exactly the same amount of score, like shots on goal, and it's 13-12 to both. So even the makeup of the shots is exactly the same.
But definitely you can't sit there and, in a game that you don't win, you can't sit there and say there was no wasted opportunities, because there always is. Or there's chances that just didn't go your way, whatever.
Yep. So that was my number 3. And my number 4, no VFL game this weekend. So that was a bit of an odd one. I guess it was because, we were going down and playing a South Australian team. There's no, their reserves team is in the Sandful. We don't play in that competition. I guess it was a good week to give them a bye, but I was really looking forward to watching a few of the other players in the VFL, particularly Zane Zakastelsky. I think I got that right.
You did?
He's one that I'm really tracking because, he's supposed to be an up-and-coming key defender. There's a few guys that I wanted to keep an eye on. So I always like to watch the VFL games if I can manage, but the fact that there was none on, bit of a cross, a little bit of a minor cross, not really that big of a deal, but just a cross anyway. And my last one is Lohman coming back on after a big head knock with head bleeding. Obviously, he passed, any tests, so they put him through. But I would have just ruled him out, to be honest. I wouldn't have taken the chance. Bleeding from the head after a big head knock like that can never be a good thing.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't have taken the chance with him.
And both myself and the commentators at the time were sort of the mind that, just sub him off.
Yeah.
Pryor doesn't have to play the full rest of the game. He can come on and off the bench or whatever. But
because that did happen before Pryor was ruled out, wasn't it?
Yeah. So I would rather have a fully fit Pryor than a guy who's cut his head open. And that's not a knock on Loman personally, but
no, I don't think he did anything wrong, and obviously it's not at fault. It was just a pure accident. But the fact that, I mean, you could see the bleed because he's got obviously quite bright blonde hair.
Yeah.
The fact that you could see stained red blood on the back of his head from where he got knocked, I just wouldn't have taken the chance, regardless if if he passed any concussion tests or anything like that, which he obviously clearly did. I think, a bleed to the back of the head like that, I would just say, no, not chancing it. Next week.
And with the the policy, that's still a work in progress on head knocks and that sort of thing. I think that's just an instant. Yep, sub him out.
Yeah, I wouldn't have taken a chance like I did. So that's big.
Yeah,
that's a big cross for me.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with you on that.
And that's my crosses.
All right, cool. I agree with all of them, I believe.
Yeah.
Let's get into our players of the week.
Sure.
Do you want to go first, or do you want me to?
Look, I feel like we probably have the same player this week, like we do some weeks. Not every week, but
I don't reckon we do, because I'm going to pull I'm going to pull a left fielder.
Okay. Well, mine. I'll go first in that case.
Yep.
So mine's a guy we've touched on a few times in the podcast, Callum Ah Chee. Comes straight back in, kicks 4 goals. How can you not give him player of the week?
Yeah, look, he had, under all circumstances, you got to say he's the man there.
Yeah, I mean, we're getting dangerously close to changing the name of the podcast to the Callum Ah Chee podcast.
Yeah. If Kick-Ons doesn't keep going, we should try and get him on as a co-host.
Yeah, he'll be a free agent.
Yeah, maybe they'll delist him from Kick-Ons and we'll pick him up.
We got nothing to pay him with, but
Yeah, well, that's it. We've got no gambling money. Yeah, look, I wrote 4 players down on my list that I felt I could have given it to for various reasons. And
so these are your honourable mentions.
Yeah, so obviously, Ah Chee was on my list. Ideally, he was the guy I was giving it to because I felt he was the guy that, in a weird sense, won the game for us, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Even though we didn't obviously win, but you know what I mean. I thought Big O did a really good job, played pretty well. Not our best player, but probably his best 4-quarter game.
Yeah, well, remember he started the season pretty quiet as well, like a few other blokes. But he kind of came into his own just before he got injured.
Yeah, which is
But he's come back since his injury and been pretty good as well, so he didn't lose any form. Or confidence. That's good.
Harris Andrews was on my list, but again, it's the body of work. He does this every week.
Yeah.
So sometimes you tend to not notice it as much.
Mm-hmm.
So I've given my player of the week to a guy who, compared to his previous body of work for the season, he had a massive big standout last night. And I've already mentioned him anyway and spoken about him, but I'm giving it to Jack Payne for mine this week.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I was pretty close when I was watching the game. He was on my notes as potential player of the week. But I changed it to Cal after he'd slotted 4 because, that was an unreal performance from him. But yeah, no, I can see why you would put him as your player of the week.
Yeah, and I've done it. It's more of a, this is a big step up from what he's done in a lead up to this game. And again, he's a guy who's been, lampooned by everyone and, he's been slaughtered on the social media. He's not up to it. He's not AFL standard, all this stuff that they say about him.
Yep.
And he showed last night that he is.
Oh, yeah.
And again, I know Taylor Walker's at the end of his career pretty much, but he's still a dangerous player and Payne beat him for 99% of the game.
Yep. I think I can agree with that. Yeah, and like we said, Walker got, one of his 2 goals was a cheeky handball that the person who handballed it probably could have kicked themselves.
Yeah.
But obviously we're just trying to get him back into the game. So I don't blame Payne for that at all. But yeah, I think that was definitely his season best game at this stage.
Yeah. And again, you just want to see it continue now. And, obviously Jack's a great guy. And he's pretty well liked around the team from what I can gather. So, that'll do his confidence the world of good as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Not me giving him player of the week. The performance he did on field. So
yeah, no, I gotcha.
Just in case any listeners are like, how much does this bloke rate himself?
Yeah, it's a big honour.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess so. We have a Saturday night game.
Yes, 7:30, I think it is. Against Richmond, home game.
So we'll try and have an episode out Friday morning or Friday afternoon at the latest.
Yeah, well, we don't have to worry about any pesky extended benches for Sunday games this week.
Yeah, that's good. And I have got a little short episode for the club we hold so dear that I've just about finished putting together. It's just an interview I did with Neil Butler. Some of you would have heard parts of it. Just talking about Fitzroy and a little bit of Brisbane Lions stuff in there. I know some of the Fitzroy people don't like that, but you know what? It's part of it. And I know some of the old Bears people don't like hearing about Fitzroy, but we're all part of one big Brady Bunch family.
That's exactly right.
And VFL, I haven't even looked.
Yes, I've got that in front of me. So we're versing the Casey Demons at their home ground, Casey Fields, Saturday at 11:05 a.m.
Yeah, look, I don't think I'm going to get out to that one. Casey's or Cranbourne, the suburb where it is a long drive.
Yeah.
It's essentially, for me, it's probably a 2 and a bit hour drive. So I will try and catch that on TV.
Yeah, I'll most likely be watching that one. I'm trying to. I might be taking my son to there's a monster truck show in town over the weekend. So it'll either be Saturday or Sunday that I do that. So I may be catching that game. I haven't watched VFL in a couple of weeks, so I'm hoping to get back in and get up to date with the VFL. So should be good. Casey Demons, that should be an interesting game. Melbourne's doing pretty well at the moment. Well, actually, they're actually kind of a mixed bag. They just lost.
Well, they've from what I can gather, they would have some experienced guys in their VFL because they're playing a lot of young guys in their AFL team.
Yeah, I mean, their injury list isn't too extensive at the moment, is it?
Not that I know of.
I wouldn't have thought so.
Because all we keep hearing about is Carlton, really.
Yeah, when Richmond has the worst one by far.
Yeah, they do. And they play us, so chance. And interesting too, so like a lot of narrative was about us and our poor home game record this season.
Yep.
So we have seen Geelong go down at home in the impregnable fortress of the Health Fund Stadium.
The Health Fund Stadium, yeah.
And a guy I know was working in one of the food caravans on Friday night, and he said that they all ran out of food by half time because the game was so boring. Everyone was just buying kebabs and hamburgers and chips.
Well, that's good for him.
He said, he got paid the same amount of money regardless. He's just a chump. It wasn't his caravan, but
sure,
kept him busy though. He was pretty happy about that rather than sitting there waiting for people to come and buy a burger. But so that's rather interesting. But Freo also lost at home, and the Crows didn't win their home game. So
they didn't win or lose.
Yeah, so look, the home ground thing isn't as big a deal this year as it has been in previous years because I think the competition's a lot closer than what it has been. And I know we say that every year, but it really is.
Yeah, I mean, how many times do we have the lead into the season being, this is the most even season yet?
Yep.
But it's kind of true, though. Like, the competition, apart from, North Melbourne's pretty off the mark at the moment, and Richmond's pretty off the mark at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, look,
the Eagles are, coming up, and
and look at the Hawks. They've won the last 2 or 3.
Yeah.
After
we got them after the Tigers too. So
they got absolutely pumped a few weeks ago, and then they've won. Like I'm going to say the next 3. So they've beaten some highly rated teams. I don't know if I highly rate the Western Bulldogs yet, but the media still say they got the best list in the comp, which is interesting.
Yeah. Well, I wonder what unit of measurement they use for that one. Because I've heard that many times too, and it's like, oh, but the capability of the guys on the list. And it's like, well, if you've never seen it, then how do they have the capability of doing that? Like, it's completely theoretical.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's been theoretical for 10 years. Like, it's, you know what I mean? Like, it's sometimes you got to kind of prove your limit. Otherwise, it's just not even theoretical. You just don't have it.
Yeah, and I mean, Champion Data once rated Mason Cox as elite, and I think even Mason himself would have been surprised by that. That's no knock on him because he generally does his job most weeks. But
yeah, look, I actually don't mind Mason Cox. I know he's gets a bit cheeky on Twitter. I'm not on Twitter, but I am forced to be aware of his tweets sometimes on Reddit and Fox Footy and things like that. So, but yeah, I don't mind it.
I mean, look, it's a good story, isn't it? Like,
and he gives him something to talk about.
Yeah, he's a premiership player from a guy who, into his 20s had never played the game before, and
we don't get many Yanks watching our game, or certainly playing our game.
Yeah, and was nearly delisted by Collingwood a couple of times. Had that eye injury, and
that eye injury was rough. Just a description of. Have you heard him describe his rehabilitation for that one?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm not going to make our listeners uncomfortable, but that was a rough one.
And as a Four Eyes myself, I do appreciate what he has had to go through with his eye. So, but he has his own podcast, so we'll just. And ironically, he talks more about Keziah Pickett than he does about his own football club. He's a big Cozzy fan.
Oh, interesting. I wouldn't have picked that.
Yeah, I have listened to his pod a couple of times. Took one for the team there, as I've been known to do.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess that's it for us. We don't really have anything else we need to talk about, do we?
No. We'll once we know the injury list and the lineup, we'll record Thursday night and have the podcast out on Friday. Plenty of time to listen before the game on Saturday.
Yeah, but I'll put a graphic up on the socials during the week with our leaderboard for our player of the week /year.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah, see where everyone's tracking. I think Callum Ah Chee might now be a joint leader, but don't quote me on that.
I'm thinking probably Joe and Cal together, maybe Harris.
Yeah, and Harris. I think they're all sort of up around the same mark.
Yeah,
Zorko's sort of somewhere around the mark as well.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that'd be good. I'll look forward to that. And we'll head off now and we'll reconvene on Thursday night.
No worries. I'll catch you on Thursday.
See you, mate.
All right, have a good one.
You too. Bye-bye.
See ya. We are the Pride Brisbane Lions podcast and the club we hold so dear, Fitzroy Football Club podcasts, are both brought to you by Still Have Productions, and you can find us on everywhere you find podcasts: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeart, YouTube. We also have some additional little short minisodes and other little things on YouTube as well. Plus, we're on TikTok and Instagram and Facebook. So, yeah, swing by our socials and our various podcasting platforms. Give us a like and a follow, and on the podcasting platforms, please give us a 5-star review, because that gets us to the top of the list when you not only search Brisbane Lions but Australian football. And we were given the stats from Apple Podcasters HQ this week that we are the 22nd most listened to Australian football podcast over the last 30 days. So thank you to everybody who has listened and got us up to that level. And we're also the 232nd most listened to sports podcast across the whole of Australia as well. And I imagine there's tens of thousands of various different sports podcasts. So this is just amazing. It's blown me away, all your support and everything you've done to make us what we are and to get us to where we are. We do this for you because we are exactly like you. We are Brisbane Lions fans. We're Fitzroy fans. We're Brisbane Bears fans. And we love football, we love you, and we love what we do. So, yeah, again, thank you for your support, and keep on roaring.